Who wants to go over what has happened, where the party is? Hmm. And who remembers the info dump that you guys are given by Blast 'em Off? Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Cerns. Hmm. Which are lizard folk, essentially. Yep. And the Blastmoff has been able to give you the names of, as far as he is aware, who the current leaders are, who are the ones that are going to be the most likely to be able to sway or convince or control their faction in one way or another. Um, and to start you all off, he said, it's probably best to go get, kind of get a vibe off of Vokath. And knowing that the arena, there's a tournament happening shortly, there's going to be members of all of the different factions there. in one form or another. And so you guys set off from the planet that you picked up Blastomov and the remainder of his crew to Vocast's base, which is floating above one of the moons of Doom space. But before we get to you guys touching down fully, I believe that Mandy, you had a request for a little bit of RP first, yes? And you hear kind of a groan, and you're not overly surprised by the response, as uh, Blastomov has been drinking relatively heavily with Crux over the past couple of days. And so you get the kind of standard, he is probably hungover in some form or fashion. As he stumbles to the door, you see it creak open. He's kind of rubbing his eyes a little bit. And he looks you up and down, and you see just that kind of questioning look that you've come to understand, of just like the silent, okay, what's up? As he is still composing himself. And you see the need for secrecy seems to get his attention a little bit. He kind of straightens up a little bit, tilts his head. Mm, There's one nod. He steps aside and kind of motions you into the room that he has taken to sleeping in. And you see him trying to like parse together what you're meaning. His brows furrowing a little bit. And then the realization hits, and he just lets out a full body sigh, and one massive hand kind of comes up to his face and just runs down along the side. I think everybody should be cautious and concerned about her. But it's not my crew, not my mission to run. And if Warwick hasn't shot her in the head already, well, she must have something useful. And Warwick just kind of moves to go sit on a stool that's been set up in front of a desk. You can hear it kind of creak under him as he rests an arm on the desk and looks you over for a moment. Did I ever tell you how all of this, and he just kind of gestures vaguely, ended up being what I was doing right now. He nods. You are aware of what the Zarshian Empire has been doing for centuries now. Eating entire solar systems, entire crystal spheres, and just moving on as soon as they're dust. About a dec about a decade back or so, Blastimov and I were, well, part of a rather large fleet that tried to stop the Zarshian Empire. We laid siege to their citadel for all of a day, and they wiped us out. That woman, he points towards the door behind you, Ori. That is one of their royal family. Mm, he nods. And you can see him kind of like he's staring. He seems at first to be staring at you, and you realize he's more like staring at the door through you. And you can see it like one hand kind of lifts to rub at his mouth. So he's thinking, for he shakes his head. If she's got the key to breaking all of this, we can't afford to piss her off. Can't afford to toss her aside. But my advice, if you're so inclined, and he looks to he focuses in on you again, Ori, is take everything she says very carefully. I have a feeling she's hiding something. And above table, this would have been information that both Ori and Finn likely would have gotten piecemeal through the couple of days. That Jadali, there seems to be a infighting between Jadali and her brother, a battle of succession, essentially. And so Jadali is joined the crew more or less on a level of the enemy of my enemy vibe. Unless uh, Iris, Amy, Joe, we think one of your characters would explain it a little differently. And I will point out that Jadali has not been friendly per se with anybody this entire time. Certainly not with Garganhall, who she is essentially chased back to his own ship. But she has also not been outwardly hostile or even particularly difficult. She seems bound and determined that unless directly interacted with, she just kind of exists in the background. She is there to listen, to like watch and observe, and to maybe occasionally throw a thought out. But like when she shows up to dinner, she just takes whatever seat is available, eats, and then leaves as soon as she is done. Never really complaining, never really like putting up a fuss about anything. And Blasphemous just kind of smiles and shakes his head. It's like, oh, hi, Hazel. Hey, Bobby. Um, I suppose that would be a little strange. I will likely stay on this ship unless, uh, Grimzod calls me over, but even if I was on that other ship, I wouldn't be the captain there. Both this one and the Last Breath already have their captains. Wherever you are, well, follow their lead rather than mine. I'm just a hired gun here, I suppose. And just kind of waves his arm towards the massive musket and greatsword that's leaning against one wall of the room. I don't suppose I'm gonna be a captain again anytime soon unless we magically find a uncaptain, unused spelljamming ship that's fit to fly in doom space, which I have a sneaking suspicion is asking for too much. Mm, he nods. Perhaps. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to manage that. But you get this like a kind of a rumble of a laugh, and he shakes his head. Any ship that I fly, you're more than welcome to be on, Nori. You don't have to worry about that. It's just a snort, and he shakes his head again. It's not a bother, but if it eases your mind at all, this Booker, what he might lack in experience, he seems to make up for in some ship sense. Just follow his lead. Be interested to learn as well. Last time I heard, the Lady Luck was not under the command of a tiefling. And he nods. Please do. If we're on a pirated ship here, well, I'd like to get off before the owner finds her way back. He just kind of like nods and gives you a point of like, yep, that's exactly right. He just kind of gives like a little wave as you turn to leave, not bothering to get up. Still, you're pretty sure that the room might be spinning just a little bit to him. Does she go wandering off to try and get the tea on Booker? Slowly realizes that like nobody on the ship has been on the ship for very long. It's like, oh, okay. The fuck is going on here? They found me in the like sleeping for I don't know how many years on the body of a deceased god, and they just said, "Get on board. You're big and you hit hard." What? Is there any other interactions that people would like to throw out before we get to the base? You guys can talk about that in character as you are getting closer. You can trust that Micken will get you as close to the base as he can before he's like, I need a decision. Hmm. Sure. Oh, it is. Hmm. So essentially, and this is stuff that you guys would have been able to like find out if you wanted to. Um, Looking at this nice picture of what you see on your approach, the arena itself does look different than the tower beside it. The arena is this portion, this domed circle, and it is old. The tower is a slightly newer, not new, but within the last lifetime or two addition that has since been taken over by Vocath. So they are now, it is now as a whole considered Vocath's base, but the Arena of Blood itself was there before and will likely be there after. Exactly. With a nice like tower getaway for the rich folks of Rome to get away while the rabble stays at the Colosseum. It's a ladybug that is not like a hyper realistic ladybug that you might think of for like a tattoo, but it's one that falls more in the like a nice, pretty like children's book with a with decent artwork. Just imagine Booker like both hands up in the sky, like you're not getting my arms again. No, don't lose the hand. I have to practice some like metallurgy, metal carving. But we have reestablished the aesthetics. Is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss going in? No, you're fine. It's just funny. It's like every time it's like, okay, we need a plan. Do we look like ladybugs? Going once, going twice. Brain activate. You hear the very distant voice of Micken. I'm not fighting. You can try to convince him, but him sitting in the spell jamming chair of the ship is like, no. Flinch just like uh gather all the fucking NPCs over here that can move. Mm. Unfortunately, he can't. He can't move. And yeah, absolutely. That fucking knucklehead would find it to be the most exhilarating thing ever. But Jadali, kind of in the corner, will lift a hand and say, I think I am better suited for any conversations that might happen. And Flinch, to where he's imagine Flinch as the like old salt-worn sailor of the ship, has his chair that he has established as his chair is slumped in the exact same chair, the exact same position that he usually is when he has to show up to a meeting and actually talk. And he just like lifts a hand as well. And I think I should be watching the ship. The two GIF, notably, do not say yes or no. They're kind of looking at each other. You see that Crux kind of tilts his head one way and the other as he's considering the question. Let me double check that I'm getting these two correct. Yes, I am. Well, I've never really been one to say no to a fight, but. And he pats the musket that's leaned up against the table. I like to think of myself as a little bit more of a sharpshooter. I'm not sure how well I'm going to. Well, if this thing jams in the middle of the arena, I'm kind of shit out of luck. Blastimov, however, just kind of like puffs himself up a little bit more and looks at Crux. And that's why you should have learned the sword more. And we'll look over at Booker and says, well, if you want an extra blade, I don't mind pitching in. And Blastimov will nod and then look towards Ori. Just like a brow up. Clay has not said anything. Charles! So it sounds like, at least for now, until Cody can come back if they decide differently. Finn, Jadali, Flinch, Crux, and Micken are not fighting. The rest of the crew and Blast 'em off are, and then unfortunately Starbow is stuck on the ship. Now, if you want to try and do some sneaky shit somehow, which will definitely get you killed, to let Starbow do something. Gaseous gaseous form might work. He would be allowed to go into the arena. That's not the issue. The issue is that his roots are now in the ship. Technically. That's why I said it would definitely get you dead. Technically, yes. hmm He does a shit ton of damage when he starts throwing rocks on the ship. Imagine you guys have built a little container full of cannonballs directly beside him at this point. hmm And he can technically unroot himself because he is still young enough and small enough. It just takes a good several days for him to retract his roots in such a way that's not going to damage the ship. No. Yeah. It only becomes permanent when a treant is fully grown. They're so bound into the ship they can't be removed without destroying the ship in the process. But it sounds like you guys have your divide of who is going in and who isn't. Anything else you'd like to discuss beforehand? Would Booker think this, Joe? Mm. This has not been an issue with other, to be fair to Booker, this has not been an issue with other people thus far, so Booker genuinely does not understand that, I don't think. And imagine the moment that you guys hand Jadali a cloak that, by all rights, is a decent cloak, all things considered. She kind of looks at it, and you see just a very tiny curl of like, ugh, on her lips. Like, I have to wear this? Okay. And then there's a moment of, she doesn't say anything, she hasn't looked at anybody, but then there's this moment where you suddenly see a shimmer of magic go from her hand down the cloak, and it seems to lengthen about a foot so that it goes from above the ankle cloak to essentially barely brushing the ground. And you're not sure how, but it seems like the material becomes nicer. It's still a heavy, dark material, but it's almost like it increased in quality somehow. And, and you see those pinprick gold eyes turn towards you as you ask the question, and there's a single brow that goes up, and she doesn't say anything. But as you all approach the base, Micken informs all of you that you guys are getting closer and closer. And you all go up to the top deck to see the base coming into view. Do you see the circular domed top of the blood arena? You can already see flickering firelight through massive windows on the sides. The thin tower poking out behind with its solitary dock, and the two Mercane statues at the very end of it. As you get closer and closer, you realize that at various points around the arena, there are docks that reach out, and it looks like there are already ships on them of various kinds. In total, there are 8 docks. Amy, crack the knuckles. And we'll move to. This might take some finagling so that you guys can see shit. Give me a moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. A C player characters. Okay, you guys are floating in space currently, but can you see what's immediately around you? Okay. Okay. This is what I feared. And you saw nothing, Trixie? Did you zoom out? Fucking. No? Okay. And then here. Okay. Just gonna give each of you a light for the moment, I think. Oh. Do this. This will be faster. There are 8 docks, essentially in a circle around the arena. And starting from the ship that is closest to the crew right now. Let me readjust this really fast. That is going to be considered dock 1 for sake of numbering. And go back over here. This. At dock 1, as you kind of circle the arena, one good circle, you see a Shrike ship. That is called the Skyra. Skyrra. Dock 2, you see a massive lamprey ship called the Remora. You see that dock 3 is empty. Dock 4 has a massive space galleon that's swarming with activity. And the galleon is called the Tarask. Almost surprising in its size compared to the others. Dock 5 has a small, well, large for the class of ship, but small compared to the rest that are docked. A wasp ship named the Gadabout. Gadabout. And then dock 6, you see a massive, brilliant red scorpion ship named the Vrusk. Vrusk. And then you see that the final dock that is at the arena is also empty. From moving around, you're very quickly able to surmise that the Skyra, the Shrike ship at Dock 1, seems to be manned by primarily Aarakocra. And the Tarask, the galleon on Dock 4, seems to be manned primarily by Hadozi. Though you're too far away to really see what the others are manned by, as most all of the rest of them have decks that are largely, if not entirely, covered. As you complete one good pass, you see one final ship docked far away at the tower. Sitting alone on the tower's dock, you see a single damselfly ship. Though you are unable to get close enough to see what name has been given to it. And as you finish the one good circle of the tower, you hear Micken call out from the spelljamming helm. Looks like there's 2 docks available. Any particular one we want to shoot for? It's going to essentially what it's going to do is affect who you interact with first. So this one you will interact very immediately with whoever is on the scorpion ship. This one over here, there's 2 possible groups for you to interact with. Could be good, could be bad. One of them you know is Hadozi. Sounds like it. Yes. That would be you guys will be landing at Dock 3. The Tarask is at 4. The Wasp. Mm-hmm. Okay. Somebody wants to doodle themselves ladybugs on this dock. You can feel free. This is now your guys' dock. And let me do a thing. Eh? What'd you think was a lobster? Oh, the scorpion. That's because its ass is off the map right now. I need to bring everything that you can run into immediately up to the forefront of the map. Just gonna drop a whole bunch of this shit right now because I don't know how to fix it for the moment. But trying to figure out lighting indoor versus outdoor on the same map is not fun. But so you land, you immediately see that there are people coming and going from the various ships around. You see that there is numerous Hadozi that are getting on and moving back and forth from the Tarask, and a couple that are funneling into the arena. Um, Here, looking between screens, trying to find out where the holes in the light are. um, and then you notice at both corners for the section of the outer arena walkways that you would assume to be assigned to your dock. It's immediately adjacent to the dock that the Lady Luck pulls up next to. You see, at each corner, a massive GIF shock trooper in full armor. It looks like, imagine a heavy, stereotypical full medieval plate armor, but on a hippo. And you see massive weapons on each of their back, and each one holding a gun. They seem to be stationed more as guard than as anything meant to be interacted with or meant to be talking to passersby. The Hadozi that you see moving around, the one closest to the Tarask, occasionally one will look up and like say something to the GIF, and then every now and then the GIF might shuffle one step to the side to get out of the way and to adjust. But you're very quickly able to surmise that these are guards. And they are placed very specifically to potentially deter issues between ships that land, or at least crews of ships that land. And as you look to the ship to the other side of you, the lamprey, you begin to see the scuttling forms of Artux moving from the dock to the walkways into the Coliseum back out. And there is just a little tension in each of you as you see more lampreys than, or more Arctics than any of you really care to deal with, or at least fight, having remembered what the fight was a few days back. But the ones that you can see seem largely to be minding their own business. They don't even seem to be interacting with the gift that stands directly beside them and in between them and the Lady Luck. Though you do hear some sort of a loudness further along their section of the docks. You're not sure what it is. It's beyond your line of sight, more towards the other corner. There's something going on that direction. And the dock itself, the walkways, which would be this actual, let's get to where you can actually see this, bricked pathway around the arena. You see there's sections of it that are, in fact, done up to be entertaining. You see stalls of food vendors and little shops that might have knickknacks of one kind or another for the arena, for perhaps just selling bits and pieces of what you can get in this part of Doom space. You even see betting booths set up outside. And just at the very end of your dock, across the walkway, you do see the tall arched doorway that leads into the Colosseum proper, and you can see it lit by a warm red flickering light that takes up the entire interior. And you can see far across the very tops of the stadium seating that's on the other side. Just glimpsing it, but you can't see any more of the arena. You all are able to get off one after another. And get you here. Let's see. Starbound Flinch, you're on the ship. Blastomoff's coming with the fighting crew. Would you guys let Jidali off the ship right now? She will put it on now that she has spruced it up. Do you have the fighting group and then we have the non-fighting group? There we go. Okay. You land and there's a little bit of stirring from some of the Artuks and Hedozi. You see them staring at the ship as it lands and as you all disembark, and there's, though you can't hear it, you would assume questions being murmured back and forth and around. But nobody comes rushing towards you, so you all are able to disembark without any issue. And now it is up to you as to what all of you would like to do. Yes. So essentially, like, you guys can fight as a group, um, but the only one that will be recognized as the like gladiator, as the like winner of the Colosseum, is whoever makes the final hit in the last competition. Or all of you can go in by yourselves, one after the other if you want, or split up however you would like. It just becomes potentially harder in some cases, easier in other cases. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yes. One of the prestige classes requires participation within blood arenas. No. No, since Cody's not. So, well, I will give you some context here, Iris. Um, for this one to get the first tier, all you have to have done is participated in the defeat of a previous arena champion. To get the final tier, you will have to be named a champion at an arena of blood. But at least for the first tier, you just need to have participated. However, I do leave it up to you as to whether or not Trixie would be like, I really want to be the champion against Booker. Um, but if it comes down to it at the moment, as long as Trixie survives to the end, it will unlock the first tier for her. Hot shit. I'm here for the competition. Yeah. I will I will be completely transparent here to perhaps relieve some anxiety for you, Joe. Um so that if you guys want to lean into this competitive between like bumping heads between Trixie and Booker, you can feel free to. You guys will run into another arena of blood. This is not your only opportunity to do this. There are multiple arenas of blood around around the universe. Um, I fully intend for you guys to run into at least one, if not two more. The second one would be more on if you guys pursue that. Um, so and this is 4 tiers away, so this is 4 levels of Trixie not being able to pick up monk shit, which I know Trixie wants more monk shit. So her needing to have like be an official champion is well away. So you do not have to feel like you are trapped by hindering her mechanics right now. You just have to keep her like if to be completely above board for all of you to help Iris get this mechanic unlocked. Trixie has to survive to the end. That is all you have to do to help her. Is keep her alive. Mhm. No. There's there's some more stuff that's going to like if you become the champion at multiple there's other benefits that may come because it is a notoriety thing too. People know who the arena of blood champions are if they care about that. And you just hear Micken pipe up from the back. And you see why I did not want to fight with them. There's an audible sigh from Micken at the very back of the group. How have they not killed each other so far? I think, yeah, I think at the same time that Ori makes that noise, Micken's head shoots up. Says, not yet. Not yet. Are you planning on killing us, Button? Uh, mm-hmm. Hmm. Huh. New bit of information unlocked. Wait, can we not talk about everybody die? I don't want to think about trying to get out of here without the entire crew. That's gonna be a pain. Let's not. And he like blinks and then just like throws his arms open to gesture around the crowded docks that you guys are surrounded by. And if anything happens to piss off all of these, we can just kind of like you hear the intake of breath as he like draws himself up to his like full height and like almost indignation. Which I mean, for Micken, who is usually kind of crouched over and hunched over and making himself small, you forget that he is a tall beanstalk of a man. And he straightens up and he just you see his like lips curl and he looks towards the Lady Luck and you get the very distinct impression that the inner monologue is going something like, yeah, I could just fucking go right now. Can't I just turn around and walk right back on the gangplank? Fuck off. Apparently I could just fuck off with the ship. Somebody is trying. And blast him off. Just kind of like laughs a little bit. We gotta talk Vokath into letting us in first. Blastmoff just kind of like gestures around. There's enough time if we want to have a little chat with the others on the docks, we can. Or we can just go right to Vokath and see about trying to convince him to let us in. Imagine one of his guards would be able to get us in. So Blastomoff said that you can talk to one of the guards. The biggins. They will acknowledge you once you start talking to them. But as you approach, you notice that the very thick, dark metal armor that is on each of them, and I think I can do the where is it? So you can get a better visual on them. Mm-hmm. Big boys. Uh, but you notice that on the back of each of their gauntlets, in across the front of their plate armor, is a symbol. It glows very faintly with a ice blue magic. And Trixie, Button, you both would recognize that as a symbol of Vokath. What do you say to them? Man, I don't have it. You see the heavily armored helm just kind of turns in your direction. You can feel more than see the GIF studying you from the shadows under the helmet. And then, kind of echoing inside the metal, hear the question ring out. How many fighters? 6. Mhm. And he nods. And are you representing any particular guild or faction? Hmm. And there's a moment where he doesn't really respond or move, and you think, well, maybe he's just deciding to reject the request. But then one hand lifts towards the side of his head, and you see the symbol on the back of the gauntlet that is lifted begins to glow. And you hear him very clearly begin to speak. Master, there's a group here claiming to represent the Ladybug. 6 fighters for the arena. And there's a beat of silence, so you don't hear anything. And then there's one single nod, and he, hand still up by his head, turns back to look at you, Booker. Are any of your group incapable of teleportation? And rather than responding to you, the the gift just looks back straight ahead again. 6 closest to me to the audience chamber. And in an instant, all 6 of you feel like your gut is being wrenched out up through your body, through your mouth for a split moment, and then you land in somewhere completely different. And let me grab you. And you all suddenly find yourself in a circular, lavishly decorated and jeweled room. Let me give me just one moment to find my space again. On the walls, you see tapestries that range anywhere from 5 feet tall to well over 12 hanging. The floor and walls seem to be carved out of a single piece of dark, almost black marble. No seams or tiles of any sort seem to be present. There's a few benches along the walls and a few tables, each with some sort of shiny displayed on them. The high ceiling above has a single brazier lit with a warm orange flame that lights the room. You all find that you've landed on a long red runway of carpet that reaches from a doorway that is closed behind you all the way up to a large stone throne that sits atop dais that's 3, 4 steps off the ground. In front of the dais, you see two, which you very quickly assume are guards. Another heavily armored Gif to one side, and a tall, lanky Githyanki with an eye patch over one eye and a massive sword on their back. To one side of the room, sitting on one bench, very quietly, you see another Githyanki with a set of tools and weapons laid out on the bench beside them, but they don't even look up as you suddenly appear in the room. And sitting on the throne, staring at you, kind of a very calculating gaze. You see the tall, thin frame of Vokath. It's a blue giant wearing robes that seem to be made out of silk and fur. Silk and fur like none of you have really seen before. And as you get your bearings again, he kind of tilts his head and props his chin in a palm as he looks all of you over. Well, I can't say that any of you look particularly important or interesting. Why are you here for my games? There is a look of almost boredom as you spout off. But as you say that, you hear a snicker from the Githyanki to Vokast's left. But she very quickly quiets down again. Confident, are you? Who are you exactly to be claiming such confidence in my arena? Feel his gaze travel past Booker, looking each individual head to toe. Any of the rest of you reacting or doing anything in particular? Just been yoinked from one place to another rather unpleasantly. And now you're being essentially weighed and measured by Vocath. And having looked each person over again, seeing that none of them are talking, the gaze returns to you, Booker. And he straightens up a little bit, taking a chin out of his palm and leaning forward. And you feel like there is something almost predatory in the motion. Not threatening, though, but leaves you ill at ease as his undivided attention is turned towards you once more, and a pointed chin juts out a little bit as he speaks. So, a crew of a ladybug ship thinks they're going to win my arena. Are you so eager to die? Not that the blood won't be cheered. And there's a kind of a twist of his mouth as you speak. Oh, scared to let you in to make the crowds glad of something interesting. Hardly. I'm more interested in what might come for me. The laws of the arena say that I cannot turn away any that wish to enter. It does not dictate what the agreement is upon entry. And he stands, and as he stands, you realize just how massive he is. From foot to the top of his head, it's nearly 12 feet tall. He takes 1, 2, 3 steps down, stopping on the lowest stair, not close enough, or not going all the way to the ground, but lowering himself just a little. And he leans forward, hinging at the waist, hands clasping behind his back. You may enter, and indeed, you might win. But should your crew die in the arena, no matter who you leave with your ship, the ship is mine. And he tilts his head a little bit. Besides the fame, besides the honor of holding the title of champion of an arena of blood. As he says this, he straightens up again and kind of throws his arms out to the side in this gesture of grandeur. The title. What do you want? That's more than enough for most. And his eyes narrow as you make your request. And why do you want to wait for business until after? Surely you know enough about my kind to know business is all we truly care about. R- Roll insight. Whoever would like to roll insight. Damn. As the mention of Toro comes, Trixie, Ori, you both can see just a little twitch to his eye. Though It would seem he recognizes Toril. You can't say exactly what the twitch is. Button, with the giant LED eyes that never stop. You see not only the twitch, but a little frown at the corner of his mouth and a tightening of his body. And you very clearly know that that is not a name that he was anticipating hearing here, nor is he particularly pleased to hear it. And as you make that offer, both Trixie and Booker, as kind of the first and or the captain and first mate, you see Blastomoff kind of shift and look in your direction, and you can see that he's trying to very subtly, I want to say something. He will look back towards Vokath as he seems to be mulling over Trixie's words. And perhaps that meeting could make use of your impressive sway in this sphere, and might include a few of the leaders of the various factions that might be interested in business. And you see, Vokath went from narrowed eyes, very clearly trying to maintain this facade, to there being a little frown finally. You can very clearly see him trying to pick apart the words and the meanings, trying to dig into what is truly being requested of him. He finally shakes his head and just kind of waves a hand dismissively. A meeting to talk business is hardly the worst thing that could be asked. In the unlikely event that you win, I can arrange a meeting. But you must know the rules of the arena. Once you step foot on the sand, the only way you leave is when you are defeated. Killing is preferred, but on occasion, simply knocking out can be allowed. But if you are capable of walking out on your own power, you will continue to fight. All fights are done consecutively. The only time you have between is to make space for the fight of another. If you're not in the arena, the moment that your next match is called, well, your life is forfeit to your opponent, to do with as they choose. And there is a laugh that burbles out of him and fills the room. It's deep and resonating and almost impressive if it wasn't for a tone in it that does make your skin crawl. Oh, I would not worry about them. And if you are so interested in fighting for a right to talk to leaders of the Doom Space factions, I would make sure to do an impressive job. Most of them are here already and will be watching. And then again, if you happen to kill somebody that they like, I don't think it matters how impressive you are. Good luck. And he lifts a hand and snaps a finger. And before any of you can get another word in edgewise, you feel that gut wrenching, full body pressure, almost stretching beyond your limits for just an instant before you are dropped somewhere else. And I know it's a little early, but I think this is actually a good place to call it for tonight. Because you guys are going to get into some deep shit very quickly. So, I want to give you all the opportunity. Another reason why I wanted to end just a little bit early before anybody had to like run. Of like, are there any clarifications or things that you guys want me to make clear or restate about how this functions, about the stakes that are going in, about any of that, so that I can try to help clarify if there's any confusion, because I know there was some confusion about how this worked last week. Pretty much. There will be the breaks in between. So it is still a tournament insofar as like as soon as you guys go out to fight, you will fight until your fight is done. Then another group will come out to fight another group. And the only breathing space you have is while that fight is going on. Yes, it is a tournament bracket, but depending on how the other fight goes, I will be rolling for those outside of things. Depending on how that fight goes, you might only have 2 or 3 minutes, or you might have an hour, depending on how much of a slugfest it is. Hmm. Yeah, I will. If Cody chooses to keep Finn outside of the fight, I will sit down with them and we will discuss how that will work. Um, you guys will have the opportunity between at least 1 or 2 fights, I assume, to get some healing from Finn via food. But there might be I'm imagining there's going to be at least one where you're not really going to have that opportunity for Finn to stop by and say, "Here's some food." Um, each of the fights, depending on who you're going up against, will probably flavor how this fight goes for you. It might be a full group versus group fight. It might be this crew against one big, very strong opponent. Or if the other group is so inclined and this group is so inclined, you can meet it out into like, okay, you have 4 fighters, we're going to take 4 of our fighters and throw them up against you, and then it'll give the people that don't fight an opportunity to take a longer breather. Um, so it is up to you to strategize however you would like to strategize and try to work with the others opponents if they are in a mindset to work with you, to be sportsmanlike. There's some that might, there's some that absolutely will not. So there is some like freedom and kind of fluidity into how it all can run, depending on what you guys want. And depending on how well you roll to convince people. Yes, you are. However, that will also, because remember, this is you showing off to Doom Space who you do and do not kill, how you handle fights, um, your willingness for bloodshed or for uh, saving people will affect different factions in different ways. And by the end of this tournament, you are more than likely what the intention, well, would you guys like me to reveal the intention behind the tournament running for like the factions and stuff? Not the details, but like the overarching idea. So the intention is based on how you do in this tournament. You will be going into that meeting with at least one faction strongly in your favor already, and potentially another one most of the way there. And that's without doing any social interaction. So the choices you make in each individual round will be important. And more than likely, you will also walk out with one faction that is already kind of turned against you, not a 100% like lost cause, but one that will be more difficult for you based on what you're doing. Does that make sense? Any other questions or clarifications from anybody? If you're being carried out. What there's a locker room essentially, yeah. Yeah, between fights, depending on how it's going, there's a locker room. If it's a really long fight, you might have a chance of like getting out and getting into the stands to see from the stadium perspective and interact with people. Um, but the big thing is like there for this tournament, there is no, oh well, you beat us, ha ha ha, let me walk out. And so I will reiterate this for all of you, and you guys can change your opinions and like if you want the characters entered into this based on this. This, and I will flag this very clearly. This is a place where your character can die. It just depends on who you go down against. Some of your opponents will be going for KO. Some of your opponents will be going for death. And I will try to flag with some of their actions and their behaviors which ones are which. And of course, some of them that you might see fighting other people, you will be able to figure out, okay, if we fight them, then that's going to be a problem. But this is a very serious, for all of its camp and like over the topness. This is a you're hitting the point of either you are all in or nothing. Because you're trying to get an army to go fight another army. It's bloodbath time. Yeah, or you can try to run away, but then you won't have factions behind you, and you're gonna have to find a very different way of dealing with the Empire. Yeah, my flagging the like seeing one that's going to be a problem was more of like, okay, we know which ones will go up against that are definitely killing people. Mhm.